Hi, my name is Gwen, and this is going to be my first vlog, and I'm going to talk to you about my birth story. My son is 7 months old. Come here. And we have a very positive birth experience. I personally loved labor, going into birth, or giving birth, I should say. And let's talk about it. So I had him on September 26th, 2020, right in the middle of a pandemic. And let's see, I went into labor on September 25th on a Friday, right after my 39-week appointment, which was my first check. I hadn't been checked before that. No cervical checks. I go to a practice where there is five different OBGYNs and one nurse practitioner. So when I told this specific OB that I hadn't been checked before, she was very shocked. So I was checked and I came back at 2 centimeters and 80% effaced. I was 38 weeks and 6 days, right? So yeah, that happened. I was working from home, and we recently moved in June, so a couple months prior to me giving birth. And then, so I had become we now lived over an hour and a half away from our hospital and my OB. So I was working from home, and I had to drive there, and I drove back, and Friday nights with my husband is date night. So we decided to get Mexican food, and I think, we had dinner, we hung out at home, and my husband is an avid video game player, Apex, if you guys know what that is. He loves it. He plays with his stepbrother and his cousin, right? And so I remember this so vividly. Around 7 p.m. that night on the 25th, on a Friday, I started going to the bathroom. Diarrhea, because you're pregnant. Like every 5-10 minutes, I just kept getting up and going right in front of my husband, and because he kept saying, "Babe, why are you walking in front of me?" while he's playing. And I kept going for, I'm not even joking, 2 hours. I just kept getting up, and in my mind, it didn't even register with me that I was in labor. And so I kept going, and I just kept going to the bathroom, which is right behind me. And I probably, tried to have diarrhea, push for hours, and it didn't even register. So I decided to take a nap, or try to take a nap, on the sofa around maybe, at this point, I think it was 10 p.m. So it was 3 hours worth of cramps and trying to push. And so my husband, I think it was around 11, he said, "Babe, are you ready to go to bed?" And I said yes, because I was trying to take a nap, but I couldn't. I would lay down, and then every 5 to 10 minutes, I had to get up, because I couldn't lay down because I was cramping, and it still I didn't even realize it in my head. So at around 11:30, we went upstairs, we got ready for bed. My husband's in bed, I get in bed, and then 5 minutes later, I have to get up. because I can't lay down. I can't sit still because I'm in pain. It hurts. Not like that bad. It's like period cramps and it's uncomfortable. And so it was like 11 and my husband was like, should I start counting? Because I told him, or he asked me, he said, should I download a contraction app? And I said, probably yes. So he downloaded the app himself and he started like counting my contractions for me. Still not even registering in my mind that I'm in labor. So yeah, he was doing it. He was doing contractions. Meanwhile, I'm still going to the bathroom, like having diarrhea or trying to push. And so we go back, or I go back to bed, and I think it got so bad. I could still talk. I could still talk through my contractions. They were like 5 to 10 minutes apart, lasting for like a minute or two. I could still talk, not a problem. But then I had a really bad contraction, and TMI, because we're all women and we're all giving birth, I barfed my guts up. All of my date night Mexican food came out, and I peed myself. So I was barfing and peed on our carpet all at the same time. And that is when my husband started to freak out a little bit, because he knows I can handle pain fine. But at the point where I'm barfing my guts up and peeing on the floor, he said we need to call the doctor. So we called the hotline. Mind you, it's like 11:30 midnight. I'm an hour and a half away from our hospital. Right? So we call the OB. It's a hotline. She has to call us back. So we're waiting for her to call back because my husband's freaking out. I'm trying to like put the rest of our hospital bag together because I hadn't finished those little last minute items. And yeah, so she calls back. My husband is trying to talk to her about what's going on. He doesn't understand. So I told her that the other OBGYN checked me earlier in the day. I was 2 centimeters, 80% effaced. And she was like, okay, just come in. So it gets to be, I think we leave around 12:30 to go to the hospital. Pouring rain, thunderstorming on a Friday night. And I live in the country, so we're on back roads. They're skinny, trying to get to the hospital in the pouring rain. I'm having contractions. My husband's like very cautious, driving carefully. And we get to the hospital and we don't know where to go. Because in the middle of this pandemic, we were not allowed to tour the hospital. And they had just opened a brand new birthing area and birthing department for us women maybe 2 months prior to me giving birth, which is awesome. But we had no idea where to go. So I'm having contractions, I'm in pain. And so we had to go to the emergency room. My husband parked outside, put on the hazards, went inside, found a security guard to show us where to go. So then we had to go to a whole different area of the hospital. And we finally get to go in. And so I have to go in first because my husband can't leave the car outside. So he has to go park it. And the security guard is like, oh, do you need a wheelchair? No, I'm fine. I don't want a wheelchair. And so we get inside and I'm in triage. I'm about to be checked. And she says, do you have your wallet? And no, I don't, because it's in the car with my husband. So I told her, no, I have to wait for it to be checked, for my husband to come back in with my wallet, because I already pre-registered to the hospital. And so she's checking me. I can't sit still because I personally cannot lay through a contraction. I have to stand up. I have to move. Yeah. So she texts me. I'm a 4 centimeters, so I can be checked in. Thank goodness we don't have to go home. And so they have to do the COVID test on me. Mind you, at this point, it's like 3:30, 4 a.m. My husband is like passed out in the chair in the room. I'm like dry heaving into a plastic bag. And honestly, I'm enjoying it. Like, I'm about to give birth to a beautiful baby. All right. I don't mind dry heaving into a bag, getting my nose stuck with a little stick. I came back negative. We were good. I got to labor without a mask on. He got to have no mask on, which was great. We get sent to our room, and I think, okay, so I really wanted to do a all natural, no medication labor. That did not happen, and it's okay. It is totally fine. If you go in expecting one thing, you know, I have my birth plan. I gave them a copy of my birth plan, and you know, they would check with me beforehand, and they asked me, would you like to get an epidural? And you know, in the beginning I'm like, no, I can do it. Well, I got to 6 centimeters, and I was stuck at 6 centimeters for a long time. So I opted to get the epidural, which people, I don't know, in these videos they say it's really, really awful getting it, and I mean, like, it's painful, but it's not bad. I mean, you're about to like push out a baby, so would you rather have the needle stuck in your back, or do you want to feel the ring of fire? I mean, it's up to you. But, you know, I got the epidural. It was fine. In between contractions, the man was great who administered it. He did a great job. I felt nothing. It worked. Yeah, so the nurses, so that I got the epidural around 5:30 a.m. and I didn't give birth until 1:45. But I was stuck at 6 centimeters. They had to give me Pitocin, just a little bit. And so I was just, my husband is not helping me at all. And he is passed out on the sofa in the room, snoring. The nurses are coming in every 15 minutes to check me. My baby, he kept flipping, and my water hadn't broken yet. So I think it got to be, I had just gotten an epidural. They had to put in a catheter because, you know, that happens. And then because, you know, I'm plus size, and they couldn't really find him on the wireless monitor on my stomach. So they had to insert a heart rate monitor for my baby inside my vagina, so it could go inside my uterus and listen to his heartbeat. And since I was on Pitocin, or not Pitocin, since I had the epidural, it was easier. I couldn't feel it. So they put that in, they put the catheter in, and at that point my water hadn't broken yet, so I think they were waiting for it to break naturally, and if it didn't, they were gonna break it for me. So I think they had just left the room, and I called them, even though they're only gone for like 15 minutes, but I called them and I said, I think I peed. And she was like, that's impossible. We put in a catheter. You wouldn't be able to feel if you peed. And so I told her that, and she checked me, and she said, oh, your water broke, but we have to get the doctor in here. So my water had broken, but come to find out, my beautiful baby boy decided to do his first poop inside me, which that meant that they had to get the NICU team on standby just in case if he had consumed any, inhaled it, breathed it in, ate it, whatever. And that just threw my birth plan out the window as well, because I wanted to do delayed cord clamping and, you know, first thing, skin to skin, chest to chest, all of it, nursing. But when they have the NICU team on hand, you're not allowed to do that. They have to cut the cord right away, and they have to take the baby away to make sure that he's okay. So they were very nervous about that. But spoiler alert, he was fine. He didn't inhale anything. He just pooped. But yeah, so it got to be, I was pushing for 2 hours. So I gave birth around 1:45, so I must have started pushing around 11:30, 11:45. And this is my first baby number 1. And so I was stuck at 9 3/4 centimeters for a little while. And it finally got to the point where even though I had the epidural, I felt the pressure and I knew I had to poop. So right when the nurses left again, I had to call and I was like, I have to poop and I can feel it. And so they all rushed back in. She checked me again like two seconds later after she left. And I was out of 10, finally. And so, you know, we started pushing. It was great. The nurses were fantastic. Like during the whole time when I was on Pitocin and had the epidural, they were flipping me back and forth like every 30 minutes on the peanut ball in between my legs. And yeah, so it got to be around 12:30, 12:45. I started pushing. They're like, you need to push harder. I was like, okay. I did end up tearing. I did tear. I think it was just like the smallest one. But after I gave birth, they took my baby Fitz. His name is Fitz Carpio. They took him away. They checked him. NICU team said he was fine. I pushed out my placenta. All that, it was good. My husband helped me push. He held up my leg. Because you could only have one person in there with you, which is totally fine because I didn't want anybody else anyway. So yeah, I gave birth. They took him away. He was fine. He weighed 8 pounds, 4 ounces. He was 20.5 inches long. I don't know his head circumference, which is in his baby book, and I don't know it. And yeah. Oh, but she was sewing me up after I birthed my placenta, and she was like, I can't get the bleeding to stop. And so she just kept sewing my vagina up. But she finally got to stop. We were good. And yeah. It was very positive. My OB is fantastic. I'm going to see her. I saw her at my 6th week. I'm seeing her for my pap smear at 6 months, but my baby is now 7 months, so I'm going next week. And yeah, don't be scared. I promise it's not that bad. I personally was like really nervous, but I think as long as you have a positive headspace, you should be good. Congratulations on having your baby. I know I would watch these videos all the time when I was like trying to get pregnant, and then when I was pregnant. And yeah, congratulations. I hope you enjoy my birth story. I'm gonna do a part 2 because we were actually stuck in the hospital for days because this little one had jaundice. So I'll talk about that in my next video. Okay, bye.